Been in the office for a while. Here we go. Yep. Oh, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm John Miglosh for the WDMA. And we're going to be talking about direct mail today. Let's go. Okay, first let's get over to Tom Fishburne. Okay, share of wallet and funflation, which I'm not sure if it's so fun or not. But anyway, here's his cartoon. Being thrifty, buying private label, coupon hunting, trading down, shopping for deals, essentials, and then splurging on anything to do with Taylor Swift or Beyonce. I don't suppose I quite fall into that category. I wonder if Tom does. Tom, have you done anything? Have you bought any Taylor Swift merch? I saw a picture of her at the Chiefs game. We're going to be talking about the Chiefs tomorrow. Maybe I'll put up that article about how they're winning when she attends their games, I guess. So anyway, Kevin Jordan Dean, Senior VP at Colgate Palmolive, encouraged me last week to reimagine and recreate a share of wallet cartoon I originally drew in 2009 during the Great Recession. When I drew the original cartoon, I was GM for the recently launched Method and brand in the UK. Much of the recessionary marketing climate at the time was centered on belt tightening, private label, and deep promotions, particularly in the home and personal care categories where I worked. And despite the value focus everywhere, everyone seemed to find the budget to splurge on a new iPhone. That juxtaposition was the original punchline. So here it is, share of wallet. Saved for a rainy day. Just in case, being thrifty, paying down debt, panic fund, kept under the mattress, private label purchases, essentials, eating at home, trading down, bought stuff on deal, and then your iPhone. I've never had an iPhone. I always thought it was dumb. I didn't include it on my trading down share of wallet. Wow. 2009 seems like just yesterday, and wow, it's 15 years ago about, yeah. Wow, that's something. 15 years ago. Anyway, so he said it was really a curious phenomenon. Kevin, who's now working in home and personal care, notes that in a similar climate today of, belt tightening and all that, plenty of thrifty shopping behavior on special. And I have his article. This is from the CFO of Best Buy. Anyway, Kevin's got an article. But instead of iPhone, consumers have been splurging on Beyonce and Taylor Swift and Barbenheimer, they call it, experiences. My wife did go to Oppenheimer, but I didn't, and we didn't go to Barbie. So we're not contributing to the economy in that way. But we're still buying good meat. Okay, James Knightley, chief economist at ING, specifically called out Taylor Swift and Beyonce and Barbenheimer for helping the U.S. GDP grow 4% last quarter. So there's no recession as long as you're Taylor Swift. I learned that Taylor Swift is only 33 years old. And Beyonce is about 42 or 43, something like that. I looked it up too, but I don't remember. Best Buy CEO Corey Berry even name-checked both funflation and Taylor Swift this week as a reason for the retailer's sales slump. Funflation, Taylor Swift, those experiences are really where people are willing to pay. Bigger ticket items in electronics are not right now where people are interested. The other thing is, I bought this Google Pixel 3 about 2 years ago, I think, and it works fine. And it was $100. You can get, it's not the latest and greatest, but it isn't. It also is big enough to still fit in your pocket, and it fit in one hand for me. Okay, so here's some cartoons from the years. We already did this one. We're going to have to do more with less. It's all on you, buddy. And in case of emergency, there's a memo in here to cut our marketing budget. Okay, and this one is great. You have full accountability for this P&L. Great. Where are my controls? It's one lever. What does it do? It cuts your marketing budget. There's a lot of truth to that. Okay, so anyway, here's an excellent article that I got tagged in by Matthew Parker. 9 simple ways to increase your print sales. And he starts out with his TPD sales message, which is based on target audience, pain, and difference for your print company. And a lot of power in this. You know, I have been working into fractional CMO lately, and I'm also helping old school marketing, Rusty Dykus over there, to help other people as a fractional CMO. And you know, this is really helpful because this is something that any company can think about, but especially print, where it tends to be viewed as a commodity. I remember when I talked with Plow and Hearth and their salesperson from Quad, and she said, I've been calling on them for 7 years and I never get to talk to anybody but purchasing, and they always want a lower price, and they have their spec, and that's it, you know. And because of some analytics that we did, mapping and penetration analysis, very, very, very beautiful. I built that with Harry's direction, Harry Quadracci, and she got right in to see the marketing people for the first time ever in all that time, because she had some difference and they illustrated their pain, and right away they signed up and said, we need to do more regional marketing. And so his philosophy does work. Okay, so the best printers are focused on the customers. They end up having a different conversation. Typically it isn't about print and it isn't commodity focused. Good points. But the problem is, like here, you know, we do a podcast, we post the show notes every day up at wdma.org, and but how much engagement, right? How often do we reprint this, right? That's the question. It's not clear. And so Matthew says you should put it in your sales emails, your distinctive sales statement, in your direct mail. Do you use your direct mail? And that's a good question for printers, you know, and it's a good question for me. I would love to do more direct mail. In your telephone conversations, in your meetings with clients and prospects, on your website, and in your company brochure, as your company tagline, in your social media, at exhibitions, and events. So I like to use the tagline, fighting for direct mail every day, which is probably true, or almost every day. And we also have join the digital resistance, but would love to have a few more members. Love to make this, love to do this for more than just love. So remember that buyers are in multi-channels, and the message is reinforced where in a consistent and effective way when you're including it in everything you do. Excellent point. Okay. Small tests don't work. This was from 2020, and it's excellent. I thought it was from Taryn, but it's not. Jeff Taryn. Why the risk is greater when the test is smaller. And let's see if the author's mentioned down below. It was mentioned in the original, but sometimes Jeff's mentioned. But when I brought it up, there was a tagline that was right here. Oh, maybe it is by Jeff. Anyway, he posted it, but it's from a while ago. Anyway, and first point he makes is he's got the costs broken out for a small mailer of 25,000 versus 250,000, and what he shows is that the 25,000 piece mailer, just printing and postage, and especially the creative you have to do either way. And what happens is that the creative is almost half the cost of the campaign if you're only printing 25,000, whereas it's uh, about 10% of the campaign if you're printing 250,000. We used to require that people start with 250,000 back when I was launching a lot of catalogs. And a catalog is very expensive, to produce. And so in those days it was 50 cents in the mail maybe. So that was a $125,000 commitment right off the bat just for that, plus the consulting time, etc. But anyway, this really illustrates the point that there's some economies of scale, even when you're doing digital and that sort of thing. There's still some fixed costs that get spread over a larger circulation and make the campaign more effective. I have a spreadsheet like this where you put in fixed and variable costs, and it'll give you an assortment of circulation levels. And what you see is about 100,000 is about the least you really want to do if you're serious. Now, one thing that I also recommend, if you're testing 25,000 pieces and your cost is $1.25, you want to basically put in the number that you're thinking of rolling it out to on a regular basis. If you think you can mail 250,000 regularly, then you should think about putting that cost in as a return on investment, right? Use that as your ad cost. Don't use the $1.26. And the differential, what do you do with that differential? You say that goes to marketing. That's marketing overhead. That's the cost of testing. Okay, what are the costs of testing? And I would say that's a really fair way to do the accounting, Jeff. You can adjust for that, right? And he shows the different response rates. If you do a four-way test, usually a four-way test is pretty fair. It looks like he's pulling about 0.5% response. So these would be numbers that I could probably live with if I had a hypothesis on what to test. We talked about that last week in Mike Gunderson's article. If I had a really clear hypothesis and really well-defined differential test, I would say that small number. But when I was doing that cover test where we just changed the logos on the imprinted merchandise in the cover and nothing else, I wanted a heavy test. And there I tested 300,000 in each panel. Okay. Now we did a four-way, so we also did a paper test, but 300,000 in each. We just did a four-way test. We had a 20% lift on the cheaper paper, believe it or not, and we had a 40% lift on the your imprint here items. Okay, so testing can be really, 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 really valuable. But when you're doing something that has a big potential but a very small perception, you might want to up that quantity. But if you're testing lists, this will probably get you repeatability. You always look at the list results and you say, gee whiz, it looks like that thing is not doing well, but maybe we'll get a few more orders in. It almost never happens. Even the early results seem to really pan out, in the first 2 weeks. It shouldn't, but it does. You don't want it to. Your favorite list. I remember when we tested amusement park business for that same catalog. And boy, it did great, except for one thing. The bad debt was astronomical. People didn't pay. And in those days, we would give people open account when they started with us. The credit card might have fixed that, right? But it was really funny. Okay. Anyway, but there are some statistical reasons why this doesn't give you as much information. We used to, when I first learned testing, I would say, I was told, well, generate 50 responses. Now, you don't have 50 responses in any of the panels there, and there isn't much differential, which is also not good. Okay. But generate 50 responses. And if you have 50 responses on a 10,000 piece list, you have 95% confidence, plus or minus 5% or something. So it's pretty confident, right? But it doesn't really work that way, right? It depends on how many you needed to generate that response. Okay, so if you do 10,000 pieces to get 50 responses, you have a different confidence interval. You have higher confidence than if you mailed out 100 pieces. You just mailed 100 pieces and you got 50 responses. Okay, the chances of that happening again are very small. Right? Okay, so if you flipped a coin 5 times in a row and got heads, there's a chance that it isn't a fair coin. There's also a chance that, like me, you learned how to flip a coin the same way twice in college while you're studying. I used to practice flipping, ba-dum-bum, 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 and I could do it. And in Ed Burnett's seminar, I flipped heads 5 times in a row on the first 5 flips. But the next 5 didn't work out quite so well. So maybe the adrenaline got going because he asked the audience, and it was about 200 people, if anybody had gotten all of one, and I was the only one in the room that did. I always stood out in rooms because of those hidden skills. Anyway, so the point is that it's not as simple as 50 responses, but if you get 250, you're pretty well set. And actually, because it's only about 0.5%, this has a pretty high confidence interval, even though it's not 50 responses. I hope I'm not doing too much math. Okay, you can't iterate and improve direct mail on a daily or even weekly basis, right? We used to have list results we used to look at product sales by week. In a catalog, we only revised quarterly. And I said, that doesn't make any sense. You're just filling your head with inaccurate results that are going to shape your decision making down the road. That was one place where Vic and I deviated. Okay, and a lot of good math in this one. Thank you, Jeff. Very, very smart. Very, very appropriate. You want to do enough pieces to offset your fixed costs. And there are other fixed costs besides. There's setup, and there's how do you take your order, and how do you key code everything, and there's list minimums and stuff like that. So have a great day. Like and share. Your friends will know you're smart. Repost.